curricular decisions and strategies to support reading instruction across content areas and grade levels that result in at least a 10% start through 60 reading score growth across 3 years or 9% school-wide passing rate. So, refined student-centered problem. This is the study. Okay, so that's going to conclude my part. Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pamela Guy. I am the MTSS interventionist and the co-lead curriculum connectedness and well-being, culture and climate team lead, and actually my other co-lead, Mr. Sergeant Manning, is here today, but I have Ms. Perez. Okay. All right. So our refined problem, our students use this net for a variety of reasons, which believe in that to your collective being, your learning environment, they may be at home, they may bring to school, and like a variety of they show absence. Our action is developed and address student connectedness and well-being, areas of efficiency, then we'll see a continuous improvement cycle around culturally responsive teaching, conscious discipline, social emotional learning, centered instruction, and equitable learning practices through department teams, which will lead to more connected engaged students as demonstrated by student attendance, student feedback, and student data. You all smile because they kind of telling me, I don't know it today, you know, stay with me, okay. Go on and go to. Our goal is to focus on productive action connect teachers and all support staff and overall student attendance rate will increase from 73.8% to 80%, and overall increase 6%. Our goal is students reporting in the 5 potential showing increase neutral 40%, strong 60% in school performance, or when it comes to our school response to school safety, defined as students encountering crime, violence, bullying, or other forms of conflict resolution and consistent implementation of restorative practices. For our year 2024, the establishment of systems to document, utilize data, and monitor progress of our actions in increasing student connectedness and engagement, as well as gathering student feedback in these areas. What is our process for addressing areas of connectedness and well-being? Our culture and climate team has identified subcommittees, and the subcommittees consist around pride, career awareness, staff connectedness, and culture walks. And I'm excited to say that with our subcommittees, we have some definite goals this year. And also our individual goals were identified for these subcommittees that relate to increasing student connectedness and engagement. And a review of self-assessment using the school climate standards to identify priorities of physical and emotional safety and relationship trust. All right. You ready to take it away? Or? Sure. All right, go ahead.
So there's 3 milestones that were created for the first year. The first milestone was a system that records, documents our response to student behavior and social emotional needs, and the evaluation of that process. So there's multiple steps that were outlined for that milestone. Of those, there's 2 action steps that were completed and 2 that are in progress. But our overall reflection was that there are currently systems in place that address the milestone, while the focus was on branching minds initially, and utilizing branching minds to address areas of connectedness and well-being. What we were learning as we were exploring branching minds independently was that branching minds doesn't have a lot of resources internally for social emotional, and also in terms of utilizing it for attendance-related connectedness and well-being goals. It would require a manual entry of students' attendance. And so what we're learning is that we already have internal trackers that probably would serve us better. And also our external partners would be able to also utilize since they're not CPS employees. So so we are in progress with this one because we do have systems that currently exist, but our big area of growth is really bringing those systems together into one central system that everybody is able to use and train on using. So implementation milestone 2 was committing to strategic surveys to gather student feedback on connectedness and well-being. So there were 3 action steps that were completed and 1 action step that was delayed. And there are things that we did have done, such as completed the 5 essentials, again, we talked about this in other meetings, student QR code. But there's definite areas of growth that we have to reflect on, which is like how do we train students and teach them how to use these resources. And also as a culture and climate team, as a restorative office, as a BHD team, well not BHD, but as all of these teams that are focused on connecting to well-being, one huge area of growth is that we can continue to use more student input into these areas because that's an area that's lacking. So we're getting feedback from students through surveys, but then we get that feedback and then it's just adults that are kind of thinking, well, what do we do with that feedback now? So it's really, I think, integrating them into the conversation of what to do with that feedback is an area of growth. And then our final milestone was utilizing the PLC culture and climate team to monitor the progress to create a data-driven continuous improvement cycle. So all of the subcommittees that we created through the culture and climate team, they were all tasked with creating a continuous improvement cycle framework. And so every action, like the Pride campaign, the career awareness days, we all had a data-driven goal in terms of what we were supposed to be aiming to accomplish and how that was connected to our connectedness and well-being goals. So for example, the Pride team has focused on really thinking through attendance and looking at where are some areas where we see less, a bigger impact on attendance, right? So we created these weeks of, like these 2 spirit weeks right before winter break and right before spring break that were aimed at acknowledging student attendance and like their accomplishments in that, and then also creating these these moments for teachers and students to connect in the cafeteria through these events that we're hosting. So we did see some gains, and then part of that will come back after we implement these weeks or these periods or the career awareness day, and then we look at our data to see if we had the impact that we aimed to have, so that we could again continuously improve on what we're in, the interventions that we're implementing. So that was the summary of our first, up to now, our first year, what the culture and climate team is really focusing on doing moving forward, and we actually had a meeting just right before this, is to really think about how we integrate and include all staff into being part of these connectedness and well-being goals. And so we're having meetings with a team from conscious discipline, and we're really thinking through what are the staff and how are we going to support staff to do their own individual growth moving forward, so that it's not just the BHC, the culture and climate, or the restorative office, but it is a collective effort to create a welcoming and safe learning environment for all students, regardless of what class they're in, or what space they're in, I should say. That's it.
So at this time, are there any questions about what we just presented whatsoever? About the process, blows and grows, anything that you heard that you want clarification on at this time? Or any feedback whatsoever? Sure. Okay. Any feedback, questions, or anything? If not, we're going to move back to Ms. Karen, who leads the floor back for LSC. Okay. All right. All right. Ms. Karen has the floor. Thank you.
First of all, big thanks. I know a few of you presented, but I know that the entire team has been working quite hard in all of this, and it's a lot. We have a lot. So I think mostly just from the LSC perspective, not just from the people on the teams and the people presenting, but I would love to hear feedback on how the LSC can be as supportive as possible, and also parents. So, this is a shared responsibility, and wanting to make sure that we're not putting the entire weight of trying to work, especially in things like SEL, and also making that reading skills often come from home or are seriously impacted by home. How can we make sure that we're using our resources as parents, and then above about PAC, and then also through the LSC to make sure that we are all doing our part to be supportive of the work that you guys are doing here. Because you can work as hard as you want, but if the only time that the students are hearing these things is for the hours that they're in school, it can only go so far. I know it takes a lot of resources to make all of it work.
I think that's a really good point, though. Reinforced reading at home just makes it much more. Everyone, same thing for the kids, get more articulate, better readers. So I agree 100% with that. So definitely, homebound reading is definitely a skill that I'm working on.
Does it seem like that's an area that needs improvement, or does it seem like that's what we're doing well?
Well, I think it's always an area that we can improve on. From a good reader to a bad reader to a super reader, someone can read 12, 13 words a minute. So, even as adults, we can also work at our reading skills. Definitely.
I think the connection between home and school is one that I feel like every school can improve on, and we definitely are not an exception. I think definitely improve on that, and just be creative about how to reach that, and how to get input from parents, even if they're not going to make it to the building, and include them in the conversation. And include students in the conversation, because ultimately our population is very served. So I think that's definitely should hopefully something that we get better at, and whatever input or whatever input help really increasing that and problem solving the
Yeah, and not that we're unique, because in the city, so many people are being impacted by so many things, but recognizing that the families in this neighborhood and at the school are dealing with a lot, and so kind of traditional solutions aren't always going to be applicable, and so making sure that we're really taking all of that into account on where people are at, and making sure that a parent's needs have to be met in order to have certain things to give. And we can only, particularly with SEL, if we aren't clear on what that actually looks like, it's hard for us to reinforce that. So whether it's feedback right now or just on an ongoing basis, the more we can hear back from all of you, the better will be helpful, because I think most of the parents here, we're in touch with pockets of other parents, but each of you has most likely a lot more communication with a broader list of them. And so maybe we can follow up after break and just say, or after conferences, because I think you guys will probably hopefully hear from a lot of parents then too, on what obstacles they have, because we have to be able to identify the problems and prioritize solutions. Other obstacles. How many of you are on either Culture and Climate or ILT? Okay. So feedback from you guys, as a whole, what kind of obstacles are you seeing that weren't addressed in this? What's been really helpful that you're looking at from a parent perspective and an LSC perspective that we can be reinforcing to keep that progress going?
I think so far this year, more than in recent memory, there is greater connection and engagement on the part of staff with regards to CNC, IoT, because teachers who normally have been considered veteran teachers who never participated in this are now participating in this. So it's showing a greater buy-in on more and more of the staff, which is essential and crucial.
Well, and just like I said about parents, like if teachers feel connected, if teachers are getting their own needs met, both by the school and just in your life, like, right? If you've got too much going on in your personal life or your professional life, you only have so much to give. And so it's really good to hear that we're seeing the improvement in that sense of connectiveness, because that, you know, everybody can really benefit.
I mean, I'm proud to say the Culture and Climate has 15, 16 members. That's really good. In the past, it had 4, 5. So this is very good.
I'm glad you asked that question, because as you were asking that question, I was thinking about with the Career Awareness Day. I didn't think to reach out to LSC, but because if we're going to continue to do this, we definitely want to be inclusive of all stakeholders.
Well, I mean, I think sometimes people look to try and determine what the role of an LSC is in terms of as individual members, and what do we have to contribute. And I think one of the great things about the team that we have right now is it's a collection of people, and even students who are like, how can I, you know, like, we are all really committed to not just showing up once an offer a meeting, not just voting on things, but to really being a resource for the school and to be a space where we're bringing people together to be able to do that.
And like, my only comment is I think the LSC could help with staff keep working on the clarity of the vision we have. So my question is, do the students have the same goals as the parents, as the school, as the teachers? Well, the teachers are on the It's a lot of work to do. But I think anything the LSC can do to support advancing the vision, I mean, clear across the board with all the students what our hope is.
If all of us put together a survey, I believe that's sent out.
The survey for
Just about, like, what are your priorities? I know, like, we did the 5 essentials, but something that I noticed last year, we had a lot of follow-up questions.
Yeah,
Like, what does this mean?
I think to address a couple of these points, one is I often find the LSC, our LSC members as resourceful people, resourceful individuals, not only within our LSC, but around our community. It's one of the reasons why you stood out to me when I first met you as a parent. Like, this is a person that has great intentions, wants to support us as a school that wants to transform education, and you all, our community members, always come with a lot of resources. I'm wondering how we can leverage that so that either teams here can leverage resources from the community, whether that lives, and this is not the only example that I'm thinking of. I'm sure we can put our heads together and think of more. But if we have our 2 priorities and we have milestones, and our LSC is finding different resources, let's make these available to our PAC, because those are our larger parent organizations, and we have really good participation, anywhere from like 25 to 50 parents participating in those meetings. And I think if they see themselves as being able to leverage those resources brought to them by our LSC, I think would be key. One of the points that Mr. Miller brings up, coming into Foreman, we took on the challenge of rewriting our mission and vision, but that was now almost 5 years ago, right? And so I think it's perfect timing for us to reflect on our mission and vision, and perhaps create a survey to inquire, what do we need to change? What do we need to adjust in our mission and vision statements so that it reflects what our current families are feeling and what our current students want.
Yeah, agree. I mean, that's something I love about, like, even the name of the CIWP, right? Like, that we are always continuing for the first. And so what was applicable, even from the start of the year to the end, like we're hearing, oh, we thought that this was going to be a really helpful resource, and then as time went on, it's not actually meeting our needs, and so to constantly be able to reassess instead of just saying, like, here's our goal and we walk away. And yeah, we have an amazing team of LSC members. Feeling probably lucky, but I think we each come in saying, I have this to give, and then figuring out who does that go. Even with the teaching, we have teacher reps, but one of them is not in a classroom, one of them is in a very specific area that isn't really getting the rest, and so we need to hear other people, like, you might think we're doing a great job, and then somebody's like, you guys are totally missing the ball on this because it just didn't occur to us. Anything else? Anybody wants to add? Did you have anything else you wanted to go over? Other VPs? Yes?
I think that, especially when it comes to things such as the CIWP and even LSC, I want to highlight, as you were saying, that the specific kind of teachers that we have in our meetings can kind of only give you one sort of side of how their teaching is. I think it would really benefit the decisions we make and the things that we talk about if we get the teachers that I see every day, that I talk to, that I see, instead of, oh, it's only a certain group of teachers. So I just think overall, more teacher impact would input would definitely impact the decisions we make, the mindset that we have, so we can effectively make decisions and vote on things that would benefit Foreman, not just what we think would benefit Foreman. So, and that's just from, from the student perspective, I do what I have to do, but I would definitely encourage teachers, parents to just really, really understand that we need to hear it all. So,
yeah, and some of them have been reaching out. Well, we had a couple that have started coming to meetings.
Yeah.
Some have been reaching out privately.
Okay.
Everybody's got a tough schedule. And I think the same applies to students too. Last year, our student reps were also on Student Voice. And so I think last year, there's been some changes in Student Voice this year, and anytime there's changes, there's going to be a transition period. But having that, and also last year, Dr. Lopez was leading Student Voice, so we were able to bring in that feedback a little bit better. Like, you guys have done great. You and Ashley in particular have been so vocal about, like, here's what's going on, here's what's on our mind, and it's so incredibly helpful. But also, we have 3 students. Right now, we only have 2 students I'm running for next year, and it's a lot to ask of you guys to be responsible for representing over 600 students. And so, with staff, with parents, and then with students too, I would say the same thing. I think a goal for the LSC next year is going to be, how do we really do a better job of hearing to the input? Thank you for your time. I will see. Anything else before we wrap up?
I just want to mention a few things. I just want to appreciate the presentation. One of the things that came up in the conversation that I was trying to hear, but I was talking to Pablo a bit, and I was kind of curious to see how the emotional part, how can we try to bridge the gap between the Black and Brown community in the school. Something that he mentioned is that he's had children in school, and there's been incidents before between the cultures, and that just sparked that conversation in my head. How can we also find ways to build that communication? Another thing that I want to think about is service learning projects. Like, how can we connect the young people with nonprofits, businesses, different things in the community, so they can start building some of the skill sets and really the resume, right? Even if they have to go to college or work, kind of just building on resumes, so they have a platform of where to start looking for opportunities.
Who oversees the student learning? Those are addressed. The what? Yes. Okay, so I will follow up with her on that feedback. I also, in recognition of the diversity in the school, just an FYI, since I know most of you don't attend LSC meetings, all of our LSC meetings have full translation, not just somebody, this time there was a need, a smaller need, but several of our LSC members are bilingual, and we do make sure that they all kind of rotate through translation, because we want to make sure that that's accessible. And also, if you guys are hearing feedback on obstacles for people who are wanting to participate, whether it's living on the LSC or attending the meetings, please either encourage, steer people our way to share that with us, or relay that to us. We definitely want to make sure that this is as easy to participate in as possible. People who are interested. Other feedback?
One question that actually kind of piggybacks off something he said. So for our service learning project, I was thinking about, because we're going to be using our SROs to have our students petition. And I don't know who is, the LSC said it's a school board.
No. So to petition them to revisit that decision. So yeah, that is by the district school board. So like it's the board of ed, which we're also about to transition to the hybrid school board. So there will be probably a lot addressing that. Yeah. But yeah, we'll reach out to the board of ed.
This is a strange little caveat, but I think that if the LSC, if there were a way to build opportunities for our students that are not necessarily those college track minded thoughts, I think that even if we could develop some outside the box thinking, but there needs to be more opportunity for our four-year college kid students. There needs to be more, at least exposure, opportunity, connections, maybe even opportunity to intern or something. And I know that that might be something the LSC could help pilot a little bit with, interconnection. But that is definitely something I think that would benefit all of our students of having those opportunities. And with the diverse LSC that we have and the community that we represent, it does strike me there are a lot of opportunities. It's just
right. Getting the info from point A to point B.
And there are definitely, there are hurdles in the way as well, but I think that once we started that process, we could easily put that together. Because so many of our students do not necessarily see the four-year institution of their individual path. And we've been talking about the two-year college path, but I think some of them are still hesitant about that path, and would appreciate, more directly getting experience towards the workforce kind of path.
Yeah, and you know that Dr. Ingram has been looking into some of those alternatives, and like recently did an outside training stuff, but I don't have a lot of info on it, so I'll follow up with her on what info she got, and then we can also talk. Maybe that's something to also start thinking about through TAC, and various committees. And yeah, I think we've got, similar to LSE, like within the whole school, we've got all these people with great ideas and all these different committees, and some of them, like the info just isn't translating through, or sometimes we're hesitant to do something because we're assuming someone else is working on it. So yeah, I think that could be a really great space for the LSE to serve as kind of the central, even if we aren't the ones who do a lot of the follow through, and that other people are picking that up, just to say, hey, let's be the space where the conversations can begin.
So, for example, a long time ago, and I've been here a long time, so I have that disadvantage, but the out-of-body gentleman right here on the corner of Laverne and Belmont used to hire Foreman kids to work like 2 hours a day after school to kind of learn out-of-body. And we're talking about, it's been a long time, but that was something that used to happen, was that there were these connections kind of between Foreman and the community that was like that.
Yeah.
Now we have a barber right across the street. I mean, maybe some of our kids have interest in barbering.
Like that would be.
Right? There just seems like there's opportunities.
One of our other community is very involved in the community, like with the community businesses. And so we'll all look into these things would be great.
Just before I leave though, I think that what Mr. Stover said, and also implementing a stronger sense of a service learning project, at least for me, I was like, oh, service learning project is just a great bit, and then you move on. I think that in return, it is something that can connect to what is happening, what are your plans outside of high school, and whether that isn't always the 4-year college track, whether it's like opportunities, you said interning, doing, you know, an Autobahn, like, what was it? Even just apprenticeships, after school matters over here. Lori Children's is about to open an outpatient center over here, so they definitely would need help with that, yeah. So I think those two could go hand in hand, and that would make the perfect service learning project.
Thank you for being here. And of course, all right, yeah, I have to wrap up tonight. Okay. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you all so much. Also, I just learned that our tech coordinator hacked into Bad Bunny's YouTube screen, so I appreciate the extra $1 billion viewers that we've had over that stuff. Thank you all.
That's so awesome.
Thank you.